My name is Margaret Lawson. I am 78 years old, and I have lived in my family's home for over 50 years. This house has seen my happiest days, raising my children, growing old with my husband James, and watching my grandkids take their first steps. But now, it has become a place where my heart trembles every night. You see, a few weeks ago I discovered something that has changed my life forever. Something I wouldn't have believed if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. It all started when I began feeling weaker than usual. First, I thought it was just old age catching up with me. But then, every morning I woke up dizzy, nauseated, and with splitting headaches. My meals tasted funny, sometimes bitter, sometimes metallic. I mentioned it to my son Michael, but he brushed it off, saying I was being paranoid. However, deep down I knew something was wrong. The more I thought about it, the more I noticed how often my daughter-in-law, Anna, was hovering around my food, my drinks, even my medications. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat in my room thinking, what if someone is tampering with my things? The thought terrified me, but I had to know the truth. The next day, I ordered a small hidden camera online and installed it in the corner of my kitchen, pointing right at the counter where Anna usually prepared my meals. I didn't tell a soul, not even Michael. My heart raced as I placed it discreetly, praying that I was wrong. For 2 days, nothing unusual happened. Anna cooked, cleaned, and smiled sweetly at me as if butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. I started feeling guilty for suspecting her. Maybe I was imagining everything. But then on the third night I watched the footage and my blood ran cold. At exactly midnight, Anna crept into the kitchen. She looked over her shoulder twice, making sure no one was watching. My hands trembled as I watched her take my milk from the fridge, open a small packet she had hidden in her sleeve, and pour a white powder into it. She stirred it, smiling to herself in the dim light. Then she placed the milk back where it was and walked out like nothing happened. I couldn't breathe. Tears rolled down my face as I realized what was happening to me. The person I had welcomed into my home, the one I treated like my own daughter, was poisoning me slowly. The next morning I pretended everything was fine. I smiled at Anna, thanked her for breakfast, and acted as though I hadn't seen a thing. But inside I was screaming. I knew I had to gather more proof, to catch her red-handed in a way no one could deny. Every day after that I watched more footage, and every time she did something worse. Sometimes it was my tea, sometimes my soup, and once she even went into my medicine cabinet and swapped my pills. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. If I did, she might destroy the evidence or worse, accelerate her plans. So I stayed silent, suffering through the pain, while secretly collecting every second of footage. Each night, I backed it up on a flash drive and hid it under my mattress. I was building my case quietly, like a soldier preparing for war. But then came the night that almost ended me. I woke up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, only to find Anna standing in my room, holding a pillow over her chest. Her eyes were wild. "You should be asleep," she whispered. My voice caught in my throat as I asked her what she was doing. She smiled faintly and said, "Just checking on you." But I saw it. The way she gripped that pillow, the way her chest rose and fell with shallow, angry breaths. She walked out, but I couldn't close my eyes after that. The next morning I checked the footage again, and this time I saw her standing over my bed for a full 5 minutes while I slept. She held that pillow above me, lowering it slightly, then pulling it back, as if she was deciding whether to end me right there. My heart nearly stopped. That was the final proof I needed. I had to act fast before she succeeded. I packed my flash drive, every piece of footage, and hid them in a secret spot where she would never think to look. Then I called someone I trusted more than anyone, my old friend and retired detective Peter. I told him everything, and he promised me he'd help me bring Anna down. But before we could set our plan into motion, something even more shocking happened. The following evening, Anna caught me watching the footage. She stood in the doorway, her face pale, her hands clenched. "What are you doing, Margaret?" she hissed. I froze, the remote slipping from my hand. She stepped closer, her voice low and menacing. "You shouldn't have seen that." My heart pounded as I realized I was trapped, with no one else in the house but her. She lunged at me, trying to grab the camera, but I ran, clutching the flash drive in my fist. The chase through the dark hallway felt like a nightmare. She screamed my name, promising that I wouldn't live to tell anyone. I slammed my bedroom door shut, locked it, and called Peter with shaking hands. But before he could arrive, Anna started pounding on my door, shouting, "You think they'll believe you over me?" Her voice was filled with rage, and I knew she was desperate. Then everything went silent. For a moment I thought she had left. But then, I heard the sound of something scratching at my window. I turned slowly, my blood turning to ice. And there, through the glass, I saw Anna's face. She was outside, climbing up toward my room. The real nightmare was only beginning. Stay with me because what happened next will leave you speechless. If you want to know how I turned the tables on Anna and exposed her evil plan, don't miss the next chapter. Like this story, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Anna's face pressed against the window like a shadow from a nightmare, her eyes glinting under the pale moonlight. I froze, clutching the flash drive against my chest as though it were my last lifeline. My hands trembled so violently that the phone almost slipped from my grip. I tried to call Peter again, but before I could finish dialing, Anna hissed through the glass, "Open the door, Margaret, or I'll make this worse for you." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I backed away slowly, my knees shaking with every step. I didn't dare scream. Instead, I pushed the dresser against the window, praying it would hold her off long enough for Peter to arrive. I could hear the window creak as she tried to pry it open. Then there was silence. That silence was worse than her pounding. It meant she was thinking of another way in. I darted to the hallway, clutching the flash drive like a weapon. The house was dark, the only light coming from the flickering night lamp by the stairs. My breath hitched when I heard the creak of the back door opening downstairs. She was inside. Every second felt like a lifetime as I tiptoed toward my bedroom closet. I hid inside, knees tucked to my chest, my hand covering my mouth to stifle my breaths. Through the slats, I could see the dim glow of the hallway light as her shadow stretched across the wall. She was humming a low, eerie tune that made my skin crawl. "Margaret," she called softly, her voice sickly sweet. "You can't hide forever. You should have just kept quiet." I gritted my teeth, fighting back tears. My old bones ached from the cramped space, but I dared not move. I heard her footsteps come closer, pausing right outside the closet. My heart nearly stopped when the door handle rattled. Suddenly, the sound of a car engine broke the night. It was Peter. Anna hissed under her breath, retreating quickly. The front door slammed shut, and I heard her footsteps vanish into the darkness outside. I waited until Peter's voice called my name before I crawled out of the closet, shaking like a leaf. When I saw him standing there, his face etched with concern, I collapsed into his arms. "She tried to kill me," I sobbed. He looked around the house, his eyes narrowing. "We need to get you out of here, Margaret. Now." Peter took me to his house that night, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of safety. Over tea, I showed him the footage, every single clip I had recorded. His jaw tightened as he watched Anna poison my food, swap my pills, and creep into my room with that pillow. "This is attempted murder," he said firmly. "We're going to the police first thing in the morning." But the next morning, things took an even darker turn. Before we could leave, Peter's phone rang. It was Michael, my son. His voice was cold, distant. "Mom, Anna told me you've been acting crazy. She said you accused her of trying to hurt you. Is this true?" I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. "You've always been paranoid since Dad passed," he snapped. "Stop accusing my wife." The line went dead before I could say another word. I stared at the phone in disbelief. The boy I had raised, the one I sacrificed everything for, had chosen her side. Peter clenched his fists. "Don't worry. When the police see this footage, they won't need Michael to believe you." But deep down, I knew Anna wouldn't stop until she destroyed all the evidence. She was smart, manipulative, and now she knew I had the proof. That night, as I tried to rest in Peter's guest room, I couldn't shake the feeling that Anna was still watching me. The next morning, my fears were confirmed. Peter's security camera caught someone lurking outside his house at 3 a.m. A figure in a dark hoodie, Anna. She was stalking me. Peter insisted we leave immediately, taking me to a safe house owned by one of his old colleagues. I thought we'd bought ourselves time. But as we were unpacking, I opened my suitcase to find a note tucked inside. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The message was written in bold letters. "You can run, Margaret, but you can't hide. Give me the footage or you'll regret it." The walls closed in around me. Anna had found us already. She had been in the room while we were gone. Peter swore to protect me, but even he looked unsettled. "She's dangerous," he muttered. "We need to move fast." We arranged to meet with the police detective the next day to hand over the evidence. But just as we were about to leave, the power in the safe house went out. Total darkness. Then a faint sound of footsteps outside the door. Anna was here. The doorknob rattled violently as I clutched the flash drive to my chest, whispering a prayer. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a dark figure lunged inside. What happened in that moment changed everything forever. Don't miss the next chapter to see how I survived that terrifying attack, and how the shocking truth about Anna's plan began to unravel. Like, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. The door slammed against the wall so hard it echoed through the safe house like a thunderclap. I screamed, clutching the flash drive, while Peter sprang forward to shield me. The dark figure lunged, but Peter tackled them with the strength of a man fueled by pure adrenaline. In the scuffle, the hood fell back, and there she was. Anna's face twisted with fury, her eyes burning with hatred. "You old witch," she spat, struggling against Peter's grip. "Give me the drive, Margaret. Give it to me." I stumbled backward, my hands shaking so badly that I nearly dropped the proof of her crimes. Peter pinned her down long enough to grab a pair of handcuffs from his old detective kit. "You're not going anywhere," he growled. But Anna was like a wild animal. She kicked, bit, and clawed at him until she wriggled free, shoving him hard into the wall. With terrifying speed, she lunged toward me. My heart felt like it would explode. I ran to the kitchen, grabbing the first thing I could, a cast-iron skillet. As she charged, I swung with all the strength left in my frail arms. The skillet connected with a sickening thud, and Anna collapsed to the floor, unconscious. For a moment, the room was silent except for my ragged breaths. Peter checked her pulse. "She's alive," he said, tying her hands with a rope. "Call the police now." I dialed 911 with trembling fingers, my voice cracking as I explained everything. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. The officers stormed in, taking Anna away while she screamed threats at me. "This isn't over, Margaret. I'll make you pay." Her words burned into my ears as they dragged her out. Finally, I thought it was over. The police took the footage, assuring us they had all they needed to charge her. I stayed at the safe house, believing I was out of danger. But I was wrong, so wrong. That evening, as the adrenaline wore off, I tried to call Michael to tell him everything. He didn't pick up. Hours passed, and I finally received a text from him. "Mom, Anna says you hit her and made up lies to frame her. She's pregnant. How could you?" My knees buckled. Pregnant. Was that true, or another one of her manipulations? I typed back frantically, telling him about the footage, the poison, the attack. His reply was cold. "Stop this madness. I'll take her home tomorrow. You're sick and need help." Tears streamed down my face. My own son still didn't believe me, even after everything. Peter tried to comfort me, but I could see the worry in his eyes. "She must have someone on the inside, Margaret. Someone helping her twist the story." The next day, just as we were preparing to go to the police station to finalize my statement, the phone rang. It was the detective we were working with. His voice was tense. "Mrs. Lawson, the evidence is gone. Someone broke into the station last night. The files, the footage. Everything was erased." My heart stopped. The flash drive I had given them was my only proof. Now it was gone. Panic clawed at my chest. Without that footage, it would be my word against hers. And Anna had already convinced Michael that I was losing my mind. Peter slammed his fist against the table. "We backed it up on your laptop, right?" Froze. My laptop was still at my house, the house where Anna had access. Without wasting another second, Peter and I rushed back to my home. The moment we walked in, I knew something was wrong. The air smelled faintly of bleach, and the living room looked too clean, almost staged. I ran to my bedroom where I had hidden the backup flash drive under the mattress. My heart shattered when I lifted it and found nothing. On my pillow, there was a single note written in Anna's handwriting. "You should have given me what I wanted, Margaret. Now watch your world burn." I collapsed onto the bed, trembling. Anna wasn't just trying to kill me, she wanted to erase me, destroy everything I had, piece by piece. Peter grabbed my shoulders. "We're not done yet. She doesn't know about the cloud backup, does she?" My eyes widened. The cloud. In my panic, I had forgotten that my grandson, before he left for college, had set up my camera to sync with an online backup. Anna didn't know about it. There was still hope. But as we turned to leave the house with this new plan, the sound of a car screeching to a stop outside froze us in our tracks. We peeked through the curtains. Michael was standing there, his face red with rage, and Anna was right beside him, faking tears, clinging to his arm. They were here to confront me. Michael stormed in, shouting, "Mom! Enough is enough. You've hurt Anna for the last time." Anna hid behind him, crying crocodile tears. I tried to explain, but he cut me off. "We're taking you to a nursing home where you'll be safe from yourself." My voice cracked as I begged him to listen, but he wouldn't. Peter stepped in, blocking the doorway. "You're making a mistake, son. You don't know the truth." Michael raised his voice, demanding Peter move. The tension was unbearable. And then, Anna whispered something in his ear. He nodded, glaring at me with pure hatred. As they stepped closer, Anna smirked at me, the kind of smirk that told me she thought she had won. But she didn't know my next move. Because at that very moment, my phone buzzed with an email notification. "Cloud backup. All camera footage successfully uploaded." I looked at Anna and smiled faintly. She didn't like that. What happened next flipped the entire situation upside down in a way no one expected. Stay tuned for the next chapter, where the shocking confrontation explodes into chaos, and the truth finally begins to surface. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss the next twist. Anna's smirk faltered as she noticed the shift in my expression. She could sense I was no longer trembling in fear, but standing taller, holding something she didn't have, proof. "Why are you smiling?" she snapped, her voice dripping with venom. Michael looked between us, confused, but his anger still clouded his judgment. "Mom, stop this act. You're sick and you need help. We're taking you to the nursing home today." Peter stepped forward, his tone sharp. "You're making a huge mistake, Michael. You think your mother is sick. No, son, the sickness is standing right next to you." Anna's fake tears vanished as quickly as they had appeared. She dropped the facade, her lips curling into a cold grin. "Oh, please, Peter. You think anyone will believe some senile old woman and her washed-up detective friend over me? Michael loves me. He believes me. That's all that matters." I felt my heart crack hearing her words, but I refused to back down. Slowly I raised my phone, opening the email that had just saved my life. "You erased the flash drives, Anna. You stole my laptop. You even broke into the police station. But you made one mistake. You didn't know about the cloud backup." Anna's eyes widened, her confidence shattering in an instant. "You're lying." With trembling hands, I played the footage right there in front of them. The video showed her pouring poison into my milk, swapping my pills, and even standing over my bed with a pillow. The room fell silent except for the sound of the video playing. Michael's face went pale as he watched the woman he loved revealed as a monster. No, this isn't real," he stammered, taking a step back. "It's real, Michael," Peter said firmly. And it's all going to the police right now. Anna screamed and lunged at me, but Peter blocked her, pinning her down as she kicked and clawed. Michael stood frozen, unable to process the truth unraveling before his eyes. "How could you?" he whispered to Anna. "My mom loved you like her own daughter." The sirens in the distance grew louder. I had called the police while the footage played. Anna thrashed and screamed as the officers stormed in moments later. "She's lying. That video is fake," she yelled, but no one listened. The officers handcuffed her while she spit out threats. "This isn't over, Margaret. I'll destroy you." As they dragged her away, I collapsed into the nearest chair, my body trembling with exhaustion. Michael knelt beside me, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. I let her fool me." I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was sadness. "You're my son, Michael. I'll always forgive you. But you have to open your eyes. Evil doesn't always wear a mask." Peter took me to the police station that day to hand over the cloud backup. The officers were stunned by the evidence. They promised Anna would face the full weight of the law. But my instincts told me this wasn't the end. Anna was cunning and dangerous. Even behind bars, I knew she would try to strike back. Days passed, and for the first time in weeks, I felt safe in my own home. Michael stayed with me, trying to make up for the pain he had caused. But then one night a letter was slid under my door. No return address. Just one line written in bold letters. "Prison can't hold me forever. When I'm out, you're the first one I'll visit." My hands trembled as I held the letter. Anna's war wasn't over. It had only just begun. I kept the letter hidden, not wanting to scare Michael. But I knew I had to be ready. I had survived her once, and I would survive her again. Because deep down, I knew she wasn't done with me yet. Join me in the next chapter to find out how Anna's twisted revenge plan escalates even from behind bars, and how I prepared myself for a battle that would test my strength like never before. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay with me on this journey. The days following Anna's arrest were strangely quiet, almost too quiet. I tried to convince myself that she couldn't touch me anymore, not while she was behind bars. But that letter kept me up at night. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle outside my window felt like a warning. Anna's presence lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. Michael stayed close, still riddled with guilt, helping with the house and watching over me. "She can't hurt you anymore, Mom," he said one evening, placing a hand on my shoulder. I wanted to believe him, but I knew Anna was smarter than that. Women like her didn't just give up, they plotted. I started noticing strange things around the house. A vase that I was sure I left on the table was on the floor. The kitchen window latch was open when I knew I had locked it. And then there was the phone call, a distorted voice whispering, "You think you're safe?" Before hanging up, I didn't tell Michael right away. I didn't want him to panic. Instead, I confided in Peter. He frowned deeply when I told him. "Anna's dangerous, even in prison. She could have people on the outside working for her." My heart sank. "What should I do?" "Stay vigilant," he said. "And keep recording everything. If she tries anything again, we'll have the evidence to bury her for good." That night, I reinstalled new hidden cameras, not just in the kitchen but around the entire house. I wasn't going to be caught off guard this time. Weeks passed, and just when I thought things were settling down, news broke that shook me to my core. Anna had been released on bail. Despite the overwhelming evidence, her lawyer argued that the footage was manipulated, that I was mentally unstable, and the court granted her temporary freedom until trial. Michael was furious, storming around the house. "How could they let her out? She tried to kill you." I placed a trembling hand on his arm. "Calm down, son. We need to be smart about this." But inside I was terrified. I knew Anna would come straight for me. And I was right. The very next night, as the wind howled outside, I checked the live feed from my cameras. My heart nearly stopped when I saw her, Anna, standing at the edge of my yard, staring straight at the camera with that same wicked smile. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there for what felt like an eternity before disappearing into the darkness. The next morning the police came to check the footage, but somehow the file was corrupted. The officer looked at me with pity. "Without proof, we can't do much, ma'am." Anna was playing a game and she was winning. Michael insisted I move out temporarily, but I refused. "This is my home," I said. "I won't let her scare me out of it." Instead, I reinforced every lock, every door, and installed even more cameras. One evening, as I sat in the living room sipping tea, the TV suddenly flickered and switched to the security feed. My blood ran cold. The cameras showed Anna walking around my house, touching the walls, whispering something I couldn't hear. Then she looked directly into the camera and mouthed, "I'm inside." My hands shook as I called Peter. He rushed over within minutes, searching the house from top to bottom, but Anna was gone. No broken windows, no open doors. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. We were about to call the police again when Peter's phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. He answered, and I could hear Anna's voice on speaker. "Hello, Peter. Tell Margaret I hope she's enjoying her tea. Oh, and she might want to check the kitchen counter." I felt my stomach drop. Slowly I walked to the kitchen. There on the counter was a single cup, the one I had been drinking from. Inside I found a small, wet packet with residue clinging to it. "Poison." Peter grabbed it carefully with gloves. "This is evidence," he said, his jaw tight. "She's getting sloppy." But Anna wasn't sloppy, she was sending a message. She wanted me to know she could reach me anytime, anywhere. The next night I barely slept. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound a threat. Then, around 3 a.m., the alarm on my phone went off. Motion detected in the basement. I woke Michael, and we both crept downstairs with Peter on the line. When we opened the basement door, my heart nearly gave out. On the floor, written in red paint, were the words, "Tick-tock." Anna was counting down to something, and I had no idea what. The fear was overwhelming, but deep down, anger burned hotter. I wasn't going to let her win. I was done being her victim. I looked at Peter and said, "It's time we turn her game against her." Because the next move was going to be mine. Join me in the next chapter, where I set a trap Anna will never see coming, and secrets about her true intentions finally surface. You don't want to miss the twist that's about to unfold. Like, comment, and subscribe so you're here for the next shocking chapter. The night after finding the message in the basement, I sat at the kitchen table with Peter and Michael, a plan forming in my mind. Fear had been choking me for weeks, but now that fear was transforming into something else. Resolve. Anna thought she was the hunter, but she had no idea that this old woman was about to become the trapper. "I'm tired of hiding," I said firmly, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. "She wants a game. I'll give her one." Peter nodded. "What do you have in mind?" I leaned forward. "We'll use her arrogance against her. She's obsessed with proving she's smarter than us. So we'll make her think she's winning, while we record every step." We decided to lure Anna back with something she couldn't resist, the belief that she had destroyed every shred of evidence. Michael would text her, pretending to be furious with me, saying he'd taken me out of the house and left it unguarded. In reality, we wired every room with new hidden cameras, ones Anna couldn't hack. Peter also arranged for the police to stay close, ready to move at a moment's notice. That night, I left the front door slightly ajar, just as bait. Then I hid in a locked room upstairs with a live feed open on my phone. Every creak of the house made my heart pound, but I stayed still. Hours passed, and just when I thought she wouldn't take it, the feed lit up with movement. Anna slipped into the house like a snake, wearing black from head to toe. She moved with confidence, her lips curling in a grin as she searched the rooms. I watched in horror as she opened my drawers, checked under my mattress, and even took out a small vial from her pocket. "She's here," I whispered into the phone. Peter responded, "Keep watching. Let her incriminate herself." Anna crept into the kitchen, pouring the contents of the vial into the sugar bowl. Then she walked to the living room, pulling out a lighter and a bottle of gasoline. My heart froze as I realized she wasn't just here to poison me. She was planning to burn my house down with me inside. She started sprinkling gasoline around the furniture, humming to herself. I covered my mouth, trying to stay silent as my hands shook uncontrollably. Just then she stopped, turning her head slowly toward the camera she didn't know was there. For a split second, it felt like she was looking directly at me through the lens. Then she spoke. "Do you really think you can outsmart me, Margaret? You'll burn tonight." My heart jumped into my throat. Before she could strike the lighter, Peter and the police burst through the door, guns drawn. "Drop it, Anna," Peter barked. Anna screamed like a wild animal, dropping the lighter but lunging toward the back door. Officers tackled her to the ground as she fought and cursed, kicking like a cornered beast. "You'll regret this, Margaret," she spat as they dragged her away in handcuffs for the second time. The officers collected the vial and the gasoline as evidence. This time, they assured me there was no loophole that could set her free. Still, I didn't let my guard down. I knew how manipulative she was. The next morning, Michael collapsed at the table, burying his face in his hands. "Mom, I can't believe I brought this woman into our lives. I should have protected you." I touched his shoulder. "You were blinded by love. We all make mistakes. What matters is that you see the truth now." For the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of peace. But that peace didn't last. Days later, I received a letter from Anna's lawyer stating she had requested a psychological evaluation, claiming she was mentally unstable during her actions. If the court believed her, she could avoid prison and end up in a facility with a chance to escape someday. I refused to let her twist the system. Peter and I prepared every piece of evidence, ready to face her in court. We weren't just fighting for justice, we were fighting for my life. On the day of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. Anna sat there in a pale sweater, her hair neatly tied, pretending to be fragile and remorseful. But when her eyes met mine, they burned with hatred. The trial began, and the judge reviewed the evidence. The videos from the new cameras, the vial, the gasoline, everything was laid bare. The prosecution painted her as a calculating woman, not a victim of her own mind. But Anna didn't go down without a fight. She cried, screamed, and even accused me of framing her. The courtroom was tense, everyone on edge as the judge prepared to announce the decision. But before he could speak, Anna suddenly stood up, pulling a sharp object she had smuggled in. Gasps filled the room as she lunged, straight at me. I froze as she came closer, her eyes wild with rage. What happened in those next few seconds determined everything. Stay with me for the next chapter, where the courtroom erupts into chaos and the shocking truth about Anna's final plan is revealed. Like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Time slowed as Anna charged at me, her hand clutching the makeshift weapon, a sharpened piece of metal hidden in her sleeve. The courtroom erupted into screams. Chairs scraped the floor, people ducked for cover, and officers lunged forward, but she was already too close. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Everything flashed before my eyes. My husband, my children, my grandchildren. Was this how it would end? Then, at the very last second, Peter threw himself between us. The metal grazed his arm, cutting deep, but he wrestled Anna to the ground with a strength I didn't know he still had. Officers swarmed in, ripping the weapon from her hand and pinning her down as she shrieked like a banshee. "You can't stop me. I'll finish this." My knees buckled, and I collapsed into my chair, trembling. Michael rushed to my side, holding me as tears streamed down my face. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you from the start. I almost lost you." The courtroom was in chaos, but the judge remained calm, slamming his gavel until silence fell. "This court has seen enough," he declared. "Anna Lawson is not only guilty of attempted murder but has shown she is a continuing danger to society. She will be sentenced to life without parole." The words washed over me like a wave. Anna's eyes burned holes through me as the officers dragged her out. "This isn't over, Margaret. Not even death will stop me," she screamed, her voice echoing down the hall until the doors slammed shut behind her. I should have felt relief, but instead I felt hollow. Even locked away forever, Anna's shadow lingered over my life. Her threats replayed in my head, a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always die quietly. After the trial, Peter received stitches for his wound. "You saved me," I whispered, holding his hand. He smiled faintly. "I promised I'd protect you. You're stronger than you think, Margaret. Don't forget that." The following days were quiet, almost eerily so. I returned home, trying to rebuild my life piece by piece. Michael stayed close, cooking meals, fixing things around the house, and making sure I wasn't alone. Slowly, the walls of fear began to crumble, replaced by a fragile sense of peace. But that peace was shattered one stormy night. I was reading by the fireplace when the lights flickered. Then the phone rang. I picked it up, and at first there was only static. Then a voice, soft, chilling, unmistakable. "Did you really think bars could hold me?" My heart dropped. "Anna." A low laugh crackled through the line. "You'll never be safe, Margaret. I'll find a way." The call ended abruptly. My hands trembled so badly I almost dropped the phone. Peter rushed over as soon as I called him, but there was no trace of where the call came from. The prison claimed Anna was still in custody, but part of me wasn't sure. Was she bluffing? Or had she found a way to reach me even from the depths of her cell? The following morning, I found a dead bird on my porch with a note tied to its leg. The note read, "See you soon." My blood turned to ice. Michael wanted to move me to another city, far from all this madness, but I refused. "Running won't stop her," I said. "It's time I end this, on my terms." Peter and I began working on something no one saw coming. We contacted the authorities, gathered every bit of evidence, and even prepared a secret plan to expose anyone helping Anna on the outside. Because I knew she had people working for her. We planted false information, a bait trail that would lead whoever was helping her straight into our hands. It was dangerous, but it was the only way to uncover the full extent of her network. Days later, the trap worked. One of Anna's supposed lawyers was caught sneaking contraband into the prison. Under interrogation, he confessed. Anna had been orchestrating everything from the inside, using her connections to terrorize me. The authorities tightened security around her, placing her in solitary confinement. But the damage was done. Anna's threats had left scars that no wall, no barbed wire could heal. Yet even with her locked away again, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Evil like hers didn't just fade, it waited, plotted. One rainy evening I stood at my window, watching the storm rage. For the first time in weeks I whispered to myself, "You didn't break me, Anna. You never will." But deep down I knew something was coming. The story wasn't finished yet. Because the very next day, I received an anonymous package at my door. Inside was a single photo of me, sleeping. Stay with me in the next chapter, where I uncover who is stalking me now and how Anna's final revenge plan takes a shocking and deadly turn. Like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next heart-pounding chapter. The photo shook me to my core. My hands trembled as I held it closer, my breath catching in my throat. There I was, sleeping peacefully in my bed. The photo had been taken from inside my room. My stomach turned as I realized what this meant. Someone had been in my house while I slept. Michael came running when he heard me scream. He snatched the photo from my hand, his face draining of color. "Mom, when was this taken?" "I don't know," I whispered, my voice trembling. But whoever took it was standing right there in my room while I was asleep. Peter arrived minutes later, fury burning in his eyes. "This is a message. Anna's behind this, even from solitary confinement. She has someone working for her, someone bold enough to sneak in under our noses." We reviewed the security footage, but to my horror, every camera feed from the previous night had been wiped clean. Whoever had done this knew exactly what they were doing. The police increased patrols around my home, but that night I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every shadow felt alive. I kept the lights on and sat clutching a flashlight, my heart pounding with every sound. Hours dragged by until, just before dawn, I heard it, the faint sound of footsteps on my porch. I crept to the window and peered through the curtains. There, standing in the rain, was a hooded figure. They stood completely still, staring up at my window. My heart raced as I fumbled for my phone to call Peter, but when I looked back, the figure was gone. The next morning, a message was carved into the wood of my porch. Soon. Fear turned to anger. I was done being hunted. Peter and I devised a plan to lure this stalker out. We spread false information online, making it look like I was leaving town and my house would be empty. In reality, we were setting a trap. That night, I pretended to pack my bags, making sure the curtains were left slightly open so whoever was watching would see. Michael stayed at a hotel for his safety, while Peter and 2 undercover officers hid inside the house with me, waiting. Hours passed. Midnight came. Then we heard it, the faint squeak of the back door opening. The officers gripped their weapons, and my heart raced as the figure crept inside. The intruder moved silently through the house, heading straight toward my bedroom. When they entered, Peter flipped on the lights and the officers tackled them to the ground. The hood fell back, revealing not some random stranger but someone who made my blood run cold. Anna's cousin, a woman named Claire I barely knew. She looked at me with venom in her eyes. "You think you've won. Anna says you'll burn for this." The officers dragged her away, but not before she spat at my feet and hissed, "She's coming for you, Margaret. You can't stop her." The next day, the police found dozens of messages in Claire's phone. Orders from Anna, written in code, outlining plans to intimidate me and even hinting at an escape attempt. The authorities immediately transferred Anna to a maximum security prison, cutting off all outside communication. For a brief moment I thought maybe, just maybe, this nightmare was finally over. I started baking again, sitting on the porch with Michael, trying to reclaim some normalcy. But the fear still lingered in the corners of my mind. Then, one rainy evening, I received an email from an unknown address. Contained a single video file. My heart sank as I clicked it. The video showed Anna in her prison cell, smiling directly at the camera. "Hello, Margaret," she said calmly. "Did you think locking me away would stop me? You have no idea how many people are willing to do my bidding. You can sleep with the lights on, you can hide behind your cameras, but I will always find a way. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning." The video ended abruptly, leaving me staring at the screen, my hands shaking. I called Peter immediately, who promised to send the video to the authorities. But deep down, I knew Anna's influence stretched far beyond those prison walls. The following night, a fire broke out in my garage. By the time the fire department arrived, everything inside was destroyed. The investigators confirmed it was arson. I stood watching the smoke rise, clutching Michael's arm. "She's still controlling everything from in there," I said. Peter clenched his jaw. "Then we need to cut off every connection she has to the outside world. And we need to be ready for whatever she's planning next." As I stood in the ashes of my garage, I realized something. Anna wasn't just seeking revenge. She was playing a long game, and she wouldn't stop until one of us was gone. I looked at Peter with determination in my eyes. It's time to end this once and for all. Join me in the next chapter, where I take the fight directly to Anna, uncover shocking secrets about her past, and set the stage for the final confrontation that will decide everything. Don't miss it. Like, comment, and subscribe so you're here for the next intense chapter. The fire in my garage was the last straw. I wasn't going to wait for Anna to strike again. This time I was going to confront her head-on, even if it meant walking into the lion's den. The next morning, I requested a meeting with Anna at the maximum security prison. Peter and the authorities warned me against it, but I insisted. "She wants me to be afraid," I said, my voice steady. "But I'm done being her victim." The prison was cold and intimidating, the walls towering like silent sentinels. They led me to a visiting room, the air thick with tension. When Anna walked in, her hands cuffed, her eyes glinted with malice. She sat across from me and smirked. Well, well, the brave old lady finally decides to visit. I met her gaze without flinching. You've taken everything from me. My peace, my home, my trust. But you won't take my life. Anna leaned forward, her smile widening. You think you've survived me. I still have people out there. They'll do whatever I ask, Margaret. You're just one order away from being a memory. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. The voice of her cousin Claire confessing everything to the authorities, revealing Anna's network of accomplices. Anna's smirk faltered as the words filled the room. You're losing your grip, I said quietly. One by one, your allies are falling. Soon you'll have no one left. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes, quickly masked by rage. She slammed her cuffed hands on the table. You think this ends here? You don't know me, Margaret. You don't know what I'm capable of. The guards pulled her back as she screamed, her voice echoing down the hallway. I walked out of that prison with my head high, but I knew she wasn't bluffing. She was still dangerous. The following week, Peter and I worked closely with law enforcement to dismantle Anna's network. Each day, more of her contacts were arrested, their connections severed. Still, something gnawed at me. Anna had to have one last card to play. Then it came. Late one night, Michael received an email threatening to harm his son, my grandson, if we didn't destroy all the evidence and drop the charges. My blood turned cold. Anna had gone too far. We're not giving in, Peter said firmly, but I could see the worry in his eyes. Instead of backing down, we set another trap. Using a fake location, the police arranged a sting operation, making it seem like I was handing over the evidence to save my grandson. We waited in a secluded parking lot, cameras rolling, officers hidden. Black SUV pulled up. A man stepped out, his face covered. He approached cautiously, demanding the drive. But before he could react, the officers swarmed in, arresting him on the spot. Under interrogation, he confessed everything. Anna had orchestrated the plan, promising him money to finish the old lady's story. This time there was no denying it. Anna's connections were exposed, her threats laid bare. She was stripped of any remaining influence, placed under tighter restrictions than ever before. But just when I thought the storm had passed, a new secret came to light. During the investigation, Peter discovered financial records showing that Anna had been siphoning money from Michael's accounts for years, manipulating him while plotting my downfall. Worse, she had forged documents to make it look like my house legally belonged to her. The pieces clicked into place. She wasn't just trying to kill me out of hatred. She wanted everything I had. Armed with this evidence, we prepared for the final court hearing that would decide her fate and my future. The day of the trial arrived, and I walked into that courtroom ready for the fight of my life. Anna sat there, chained, but her eyes still burned with defiance. The prosecution laid out every crime she had committed, every lie she had spun. The recordings, the testimonies, the financial documents, it was all there. Anna tried to protest, but the judge silenced her. Then it was my turn to speak. I stood, my voice strong despite my trembling hands. Anna thought she could break me. But what she didn't understand is that strength isn't measured by how much you can take. It's measured by how much you refuse to give up. I refused to be her victim any longer. The courtroom fell silent. The judge looked at Anna, then at me, and finally delivered the verdict. Anna Lawson was guilty on all counts and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Relief washed over me, but deep down, I knew Anna wasn't finished. As she was escorted out, she looked at me one last time and mouthed the words, "I'll see you soon." Even in chains, her presence lingered like a ghost. That night, as I sat by the window watching the stars, I wondered if I would ever truly be free of her shadow. But I knew one thing for certain. If she ever came for me again, I would be ready. Because this time I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back. The final chapter is coming. Join me in the next chapter, where the ultimate showdown takes place and the shocking conclusion to Anna's reign of terror will leave you breathless. Don't miss it, like, comment, and subscribe so you're here for the explosive finale. The night before the final confrontation, I could barely sleep. The stars outside my window seemed to whisper warnings, as if they knew what was coming. Anna was locked away, yes, but her final words echoed in my head. I'll see you soon. Peter stayed at my house that night, sitting guard with his old revolver, just in case. Michael and his son were safe in a hotel under police protection. Still, a sense of dread weighed heavy on my chest. At dawn, the call came that shattered any illusion of peace. There had been a riot at the prison. Several inmates had escaped, and among them was Anna Lawson. The news hit me like a punch to the gut. The woman who had poisoned me, hunted me, burned my garage, and nearly killed me in court was now free, hungry for revenge. Police cars patrolled my street, and officers were stationed outside my home. But I knew Anna. She thrived on slipping through cracks. No amount of security could stop her when she set her mind on something. Night fell like a heavy curtain, and with it came the storm. Lightning split the sky as rain pounded the roof. The officers outside kept watch, but the storm masked the sound of everything: the wind, the rain, and the footsteps that approached my door. At exactly midnight, the power went out. The house plunged into darkness. I clutched the flashlight and whispered to Peter, "She's here." Moments later, a window shattered. Glass scattered across the floor. Peter shouted, "Stay behind me!" As we moved through the house, flashlights cutting through the dark. A figure darted past the hallway, a shadow with wild hair and glowing eyes of fury. Anna's voice rang out in the storm, mocking and cold. "You can't hide, Margaret. Not this time." She moved like a ghost, slipping in and out of the shadows, taunting us. Then she lunged, knocking Peter to the ground. I screamed as they struggled, her hands clawing, teeth bared like an animal. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a fire extinguisher, and slammed it against her back. She roared, turning on me with murderous rage. "You should have died when I first tried," she spat, lunging at me. I ran to the kitchen, heart pounding as she chased me. She grabbed my hair, yanking me back, and raised a knife she had stolen during her escape. I fought back with everything I had, shoving her against the counter. The knife clattered to the floor. Peter, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, tackled her again. They struggled as the storm raged outside. Finally, with a burst of strength I didn't know I had, I grabbed the fallen knife and held it firmly. "This ends now, Anna," shouted. She sneered. "Do it, old woman. You don't have the guts." But I didn't need to. At that moment, the officers burst in, guns drawn. Anna tried to run, but they surrounded her. Rain and wind poured in through the broken window as they pinned her down. She screamed like a banshee, thrashing against the cuffs, her voice breaking into hysterical laughter. As they dragged her away, she looked back at me one last time. "You think you've won. I'll haunt you till the day you die." The door slammed, and silence filled the house, broken only by the sound of the storm easing. I collapsed into Peter's arms, tears streaming down my face. It was over. Truly over. Anna was taken to a fortified federal facility, one she would never escape from again. The authorities dismantled the last of her network, and the nightmare that had gripped my life finally loosened its hold. Weeks later, I stood in my garden, the sun warm on my face. Michael hugged me tightly, his son playing nearby. "You're the strongest woman I know, Mom," he said softly. I smiled faintly. "Strength isn't about never being afraid, Michael. It's about standing up when fear tries to knock you down." The house felt alive again, filled with laughter instead of shadows. I planted flowers where the ashes of my garage once lay, a symbol that even after the darkest storms, life blooms again. Anna's shadow might always linger somewhere in my memories, but she no longer controlled me. I had survived her. I had won. To anyone listening to my story, remember this. Evil thrives when we stay silent, but even the darkest evil can be defeated when we stand up and fight. Never let anyone break you. 'Cause no matter how bad it gets, you are stronger than you think. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this story touched your heart and kept you on the edge of your seat, like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means everything, Because stories like this remind us that even in the darkest times, there is always hope.